I suppose we'll chat about the back three, we'll start off with them.
I know, we'll get Mads to talk about the tens.
We'll do.
Makes for a better show, surely, no?
We'll start with the back three, and we'll see what you think, and we'll move on to the tens. You can be thinking about it there.
Sure, just before we came on air, Mads was saying the tens were knocking the balls on left, right, and centre in there today.
You should have left me down there.
He was hoping for the call up, but I think had Larmer not struggled so much under the high ball last weekend, he was a dead cert. But I think he almost played himself out of a starting position, and that's my opinion now. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not so sure, to be honest. He obviously hadn't played that much rugby, but again, I think I mentioned earlier on about JJ's kicking. Like that day, like the TV never does justice to what the weather's like, and when the wind swirls in Thomond, it's very tough to get under. I mean, the rest of the guys found it tough as well under the high ball. Like it was such it looked like such a swirly day. Like Hugo Keenan uncharacteristically, didn't catch a couple clean. Like it's one of those days where as a back three you jump at the point that you think you can get the ball in the air and it moves so much. It's just so difficult. So I still think Jordan will start. The back three and the back row are so competitive. They really are. But I mean, with Jacob Stockdale injured and Andrew Conway hasn't played much rugby, James Lowe probably hasn't played that much rugby since autumn. Like I'd probably say it'll be Keith Earls has been so good for Ireland for so long. He has to be in there. And then Jordan on the right with Hugo at full back. That would be, and I know Shane Daly has done very well for Munster. But I just think the lack of rugby for maybe Andy Conway and James Lowe, I'd imagine, would probably maybe rule them out of starting.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. What do you think, Cian?
Yeah, I'd agree with Ferg. I think Hugo Keenan's probably the form guy. He's been the most consistent. I thought he was very good in the autumn series. So you're going to find a spot for him. And with Jacob unavailable, I think it only makes sense to play him at 15. I think he's a guy who's making great strides. Every time he seems to play, he seems to improve. So he's definitely someone who I can see the coaching team sticking by. And I'd echo what Ferg said. Like Earls, he's been rock solid on that on the wing, and then it's probably the other spot that the likes of James Lowe, Conway, and Larmer are competing for.
I suppose going back to Six Nations is all about the fans, like you said, 3 games in one weekend. Like it is. And I think even this year, more so, fans will be so excited to see the Six Nations. But Ferg, have you any memorable moments of, I suppose, fans post-game and chatting to fans after the Six Nations game or any game, I suppose, getting involved?
Yeah, I think the following with Ireland is, like, I genuinely think they're the best supported team in the competition. And I know all the other fans are very passionate, but the Irish are brilliant. They travel to all the away games in their thousands, and I think any experiences I had with them, meeting them after games, whether you're able to have beers with the players and you're amongst the fans, was always great. But with Ireland, not really. There was one with Leinster, I remember. Like I've specifically never had anything with fans, like a strange story or anything, but this one was a funny enough one because 2011 when we beat Northampton in the final of the Heineken Cup, came back to the airport, and the manner of the way the game was won, I was coming back by 20 points, and how well Johnny Sexton played and all the rest. We went through the airport, and it was like a circus with all the Leinster fans, Mads, if you remember. And we eventually got onto the plane. Everyone had been having a few beers in the change room and then in the airport or whatever. We managed to get through the crowds to our boarding gate onto the plane, and the cabin crew were like, everyone, sit down, get settled, whatever. They're getting ready to take off. And this guy, this Leinster fan with face paint and everything, I think he had like a wig on and stuff, comes up the front. And we realised that he kind of broke into our plane. I don't know how he got through the security or whatever. There's so many people outside. And he didn't have a ticket. And they were like, you can't get on. And everyone started chanting to keep him on the plane. So they just closed the doors and kept him on. So he just sat in a spare seat. And from what I remember, if I remember correctly, obviously this was a huge energy booster for the squad, like just everyone like slapping him and screaming at him when he's walking down. I'm pretty sure he was asleep by the time we took off. It had probably had a big day in the beers.
The excitement got the better of him, but
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. We were all going nuts. But yeah, some supporter experience getting on the plane back. Fair play to him.
That was dedication, absolute dedication to try and get past security, no ticket, the whole hog and get on. It wouldn't happen now for sure.
He should get onto the show actually if he hears the story. We should get him on, give his take of it.
See what he remembers of the show and why he ended up falling asleep on the trip back.
The other good one, Fergie, that I would have fond memories of was, now this wouldn't have happened this year, obviously, but generally there used to be a week-long camp before the team got together for the Six Nations, and that could have been, let's say, down in Galway or up in Belfast or down in Cork. And at the end of that camp, you'd then be given the weekend off, but you'd usually end up having a few beers there, or if it was in Carton House, and that was a great time when, you know, you'd have done some hard training, and then, you know, you get some bonding done between, you know, the four provinces coming together, and I have some fond memories of those nights.
Yeah, definitely. I remember speaking of the first cap experience that you're talking about there, because I'm not sure if does the tradition still, does it still go on where they get the first caps? Every player in the match day squad can give them a drink if they want. So say if we played together and you've played before, it was my first cap, you give me a drink, we both drink it together. So when I got my first cap in 2011, it was against Italy, and then the second week, as you said, was against France. We played again. So then it was an opportunity to celebrate the few first caps from the week before that day and have a few drinks. We had a week off, and it was in the Shelbourne, and we'd lost by 3 points or so. It was tight, but it was disappointing because we had played pretty well, and like a rake, the Irish lads were coming up giving me the drinks, and I was going, Jesus, I don't need this. You know what I mean? I didn't know Declan Kitty that long and all this stuff. And then Johnny, of course, goes over to the French lads and goes, oh, by the way, you can give him, it's his first cap, you give him a drink, he's a drink it. So I was like, Jesus. So next thing, William Servac comes up. He's actually the assistant coach for France at the moment. He was hooker that day. And I stand up and he gives me a pint of Guinness, and we start drinking it. And he honestly had his pint finished in around 4 seconds. So around 15 seconds later, I'm obviously thinking in my head going, if this goes well for him, all the other French guys are going to come up here. So I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I finished the drink. I just grabbed him by the back of the head and kissed him, right? And all the French lads erupted, and he was just white as a ghost. And obviously I'm dicing with death there because he's a big man, but he took it well. And thankfully none of the other Frenchies came up to me, so it was the right call.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant.
House of Rugby Ireland, here on Joe. Game changed.